Hi, I will be giving my presentation on the law of Pragnanz, just going over some examples and kind of diving into a little bit deeper of it. So basic definition that I think is easy to understand is that people will perceive and interpret ambiguous or complex images as the simplest form possible. So some examples of this. So when you look at this picture to the left, instead of just seeing it as a random picture, a random shape that's kind of incomplete, you instead complete that idea by just saying that it is simply just a group of circles that are overlapping. So we perceive the image of the series of circles rather than as much more many complicated shapes. And another example would be kind of looking at this picture on the black. If you were to just see that, you can maybe pick apart saying that looks like a triangle, circle, and square. But then once we add color to it, it's a lot more easier to group those together and say that there are three separate images that are just overlapping each other. And then size constancy is kind of another example of this. Like our brain perceives that farther away is smaller, when in reality it can be the same size. It's just that the farther away just makes it seem like it is farther. And then top-down processing is cognitive processing, emphasizing the influence of concepts, expectation, and memory. And so with this word, it looks like it says the cat. And the reason why we look at that is because we look down and we see the pictures and kind of see that they look like they can resemble a certain letter to fill in the gap. And then bottom-up processing is cognitive processing, emphasizing the importance of information from stimuli registered on sensory receptors. So this one kind of depends more on background knowledge to lead to an analysis. So with that, an example would be maybe if you smelled something, like if you smelled something warm, you can kind of use some images and some memories to realize that that might be the smell of cookies, and that means that somebody must have some cookies. So you might want to go ask for one if you are a cookie fan. And then Gestalt principles also kind of tie into it. Gestalt psychologists argue that certain principles of design exist because the mind has an innate disposition to perceive patterns based on these rules. And there's just a couple I will go over. One is figureground, which is the division of perceptual field into a figure, that which is attended to, and ground, background. So in this picture, when you kind of just look at the white, it just looks like it might be like an hourglass shaped vase. But if you kind of look at the background, you can see that there's actually two people from the side view facing each other. And then continuity is the tendency to experience stimuli that follows some predictable pattern as a perceptual unit. So even if those little gray arrows weren't there, you'd kind of understand that those dots are going in a certain direction and that the left would continue to go upwards while the right would continue to turn downwards and then probably start shooting straight back down. And then proximity is the tendency to perceptually group together stimuli that are physically close. So this is a group of circles, but since some are closer together than others, we kind of perceive this as three different groups of circles because there's three different groups that have circles closer to each other than the others. And similarities is a tendency to perceive units of stimuli that are physically similar to one another. So kind of in that first picture, you might think those pink circles are separate from those purple circles because the pink are similar and the purple is not. Then even in that second picture, you kind of pick apart the squares from the circles because the squares are similar to each other, the circles are similar to each other. And then even looking at that last picture, they're kind of all different shapes, but the way that the colors are all kind of similar and next to each other, you kind of pick apart three different groups based on their colors. So that was kind of my presentation, just kind of a quick recap of what we kind of talked about in the lecture and just kind of giving some more examples. I used most of my information from the lectures, but I also found a handy YouTube video that kind of explained some more on it. It was super cute and not too long. Then I also kind of just used some Khan Academy just to make sure that I kind of knew the difference between the top-down and the bottom-up processing just because they're pretty similar, but basically the difference is that one kind of just uses processing that allows stimulus itself to shape our perception, while the top-down kind of makes it so we need our background knowledge to emphasize that. So if you were a little bit confused on that, then I'd probably recommend using that Khan Academy link to just read up on it a little bit, and then if you did kind of want to see some more examples, you can look at that YouTube video.